Okay, well, I found my manual, and of course I've already pulled the page out that gives you all the instructions on, well, not instructions, but the actual little template for the engine mount. And I have been, you can go online and you can go to the manual and you can print them out. But something I've ran into, and I don't know exactly why, but the sizing of the printout when you size it at 100% isn't exactly correct. So you have to actually go through and work at it and size it right. So I'm going to, since I've already pulled the page on the revolver manual that I have, I'm going to go online, I'm going to find that page in the manual in a PDF file, and I'm going to print it out. And I'm going to make sure it's the right size and everything. And see if it does have location for the throttle and the choke and so on, which I believe it actually does. I'm pretty sure it does. But anyway, here's my new engine, a brand new DLE 55, and these are okay. They're cheap. They run really well. Most of my friends have had good luck with them. The only problem is their quality control is not that good as far as just appearance. All the engines I've got have just been beat up and big gashes out of them and bent fins and everything else, and they're just really not nice to look at, but they do run good. And I've only sent a few of them back. My 170 was in real bad shape and I sent it back, but anyway, I've already looked at this engine and it's fairly beat up. I mean, it's got bent fins and it's got gashes out of fins and stuff that you don't like to see out of a brand new engine, but oh well, it should run fine. I've said in the past that you really don't see all this stuff in the cow. You actually do see a lot of it in the cow. But for this price range of engine, and I could send it back and probably get a better one, it's not that bad. These the little side exhaust DLEs cost like $369, and compared to a DA or something, that's just really good price. But that's why they are. They're China. They're pretty rough casting. They're not real high end, but they do run pretty good from what I've seen. And like I said earlier, you're way ahead to go ahead and buy a new one and forget the used ones off of eBay, because actually there's just too many people that are dishonest on eBay. So if everybody was honest, it wouldn't be a problem, but there's just a lot of people that aren't. So here's my new engine. I'm going to go ahead and just, for fun, I am going to go ahead and put a few bolts in my standoffs. Let me see how they give you here. Okay. I'm going to put some bolts in my standoffs. And set it up there and see how it might look. See how close it is. And just getting this hardware helps. These standoffs and are ridiculously overpriced if you buy them by themselves. Golly, they're like $25 just for the standoffs, so you figure that makes the engine itself a little cheaper. And I've got these other faucet washers, and I use them on my standoffs to make them have a little bit of vibration control. And I'll show you those here in a minute. I believe I've got a new pack up there. I buy them at a hardware store, and I really believe that they do take a little bit of vibration from your engine, which will make your model last a little longer. Okay, well, it does seem to be the exact same mount, so I'm going to go ahead and set it up there. And these are what I'm using, and I may not be able to use these on this. And I can already tell you that it's got an end that it's made to be able to hold it with a wrench or something. And I can already tell you that that's going to do better up toward the engine. And the reason I think it's going to be better toward the engine is because here at the face of the firewall, you're going to need all the surface you can get to hold that good. And I would guess, and I bet I'm right, that the standoff length is going to put me right where I need to be. My thrust washer for my prop put me right at, so I won't be able to put my faucet washers on the front side. If I want to use them, I'll have to put them on the back side, which technically should work. I will have to put a bunch of, turn these out. No, this isn't permanent yet because I haven't even Loctite these. I'm just mocking this up so I can get an idea of what it might look like and what it might fit like. And of course, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and print out a page to see if I can find exactly where to drill my holes for my throttle and my choke. And a lot of times I don't put a servo to do the choke. A lot of times I just make it manual, which isn't that hard to do. But in this particular case, I've already got a servo mounted. I probably won't worry about it. I'll probably just go ahead and use the servo. Now, these are real hard rubber. They're for faucets, and I'll put these on the back side, and they have to be tightened up very tight, and they would just actually give it just a little bit of vibration control, a very small amount, which should help. Any bit of vibration control should help the overall model life and so on. I don't believe you can get by with much, so if you have very much movement, it would actually vibrate your bolts out and stuff in time. And like I said, right now I'm just setting it up there to get an idea of what I'm going to have. Not doing anything permanent yet. A lot of times it's much better to fit your stuff and take some time fitting it to make it work right. That's another thing I'm going to do, and I have checked this battery before, but I like to check and recheck and recheck and recheck on my batteries and stuff. Every time I grab a hold of them, I check them. And in turn, I usually don't have batteries surprise me. I just catch it when they're starting to have a problem, and I change them out. Okay. Now, just like I said, I'm just setting this up here. I'm just starting on this. I haven't even downloaded my template yet. Just set it up there and see. I'm gonna put this up here and just start to bolt it on to get an idea of what I might have. This may seem like an extra step, but it's really not. And since I'm just mocking it up, I'm probably not even going to put all 4 bolts in it. Find a Allen wrench that fits them. And of course, figure out if it's standard or metric. And these holes are a little small for my other mount, which I don't know if it's going to be a problem or not. I actually think it is. I'm going to go ahead and drill them out just a hair larger. I mean, it really wouldn't hurt anything for them to be that tight into the wood, but it'll make it much harder for them to thread them in and thread them through and everything, and there's just no reason for that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find, let me see, let's size up a drill bit. That's actually almost the exact size, but I don't really want them hardly any bigger than they have to be. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just ream them out just a hair with this one. I just want them just barely large enough. I don't want them too big. Tight tolerances. And I'll just keep doing that until the bolts fit real easily. Basically until they push through instead of thread through. Which I'm getting really close. Now if I would have just grabbed a drill bit the next size up, these holes would be massive. And I would have lost a hair of my strength. Which I really don't want to do. So what I'm doing is I'm just going kind of side to side and around in a little circular motion. And I'm doing what we call reaming these holes out. I'm making them just a very small amount larger instead of a bunch larger. And I should retain more of my firewall strength that way. May not make a huge difference, but a lot of the small things like this in the end make a bunch of small differences, which in the end adds up to a very large difference. And see, I can already see that the length on these bolts are not going to allow me to use my little rubber pieces, so I'm going to have to take those off. Those are just not going to work on this airplane. I could use them. I had a longer set of bolts to bolt this up with, but I don't believe I do. And these should be fine. So So it doesn't look like these are going to work on this one. It's a good idea, but it doesn't look like it's going to work in this case. And I could have actually put them on and tightened them up really tight, and it would have given me probably enough threads to hold, but I don't take any chances. Too many things can go wrong if you don't take any chances, so I don't take any if I can help it. Okay, and then, like I said, I've been rimming my holes to be closer to the size I need on this. We'll see how close I'm getting. Yeah, I'm getting pretty close. They're not real tight anymore. They go in fairly loose. They won't quite push through yet. I'd like to have them where they'll push through. No, that one will. That one will. Okay, now wait, I'm getting really close. Oh. This one's still not quite there. Yeah. It's pretty close. Okay, that should be enough to where they'll all push through. Now I'm going to go back to just setting my motor up there and putting 2 of the bolts through to hold it in place for a second, so I can look it over and see how it's going to fit and everything. So I'm going to put this top one. Okay, right there. And this bottom one. They still fit a little tight, which is fine. I didn't want them loose. I don't want them just to fall through there. And I'm going to make sure, and these look perfect. They really look right on my bolt spacing, but I'm going to make sure, because this was drilled and set up for a different engine, and they could be just a hair off. If they're just a hair off, when I tighten them up, they'll put pressure on everything. I really need to make sure that that's the right deal. So right now I'm just going to run them through to where they barely protrude. If I can here. It's kind of hard to get to this stuff. You got to stick your fingers through any place you can to get to it. Usually at some point you can. There it goes. Alright, now set this up here and hopefully start one. You have to go ahead and start these little ways too, because they'll actually, if you just start them a thread and try to hang the weight on it, it'll strip out. You mess up your standoffs. So once you get it started, you have to go quite a few threads. Which that one's fairly easy to get to, so it's not too bad. This one's kind of hard to get to. Need to find a better way to get to that one. My fingers just aren't quite long enough. Maybe I found a way. Yeah, I could do it with a wrench. It'd be a very small turn at a time. Probably do it with a wrench here from the back side. That's what's going to work, I believe. With a ball head. Maybe I can get them in from an angle here. And turn my wrench. No, it doesn't work very well either. It's just fairly hard to get to. So I'm just going to try to start it a thread or two, and then I'll put a different one in to tighten it up, because that one's just too hard to get to. Only when I'm ready to tighten that one up, I'll want to tighten it up for the whole, for the final, you know, I want to go ahead and tighten it up because it's so hard to get to. I'm actually starting to get it though. Bottom line is I need to go ahead and tighten it up to where it'll pull itself to the firewall so I can do my measurements and everything. I'm not having much luck with that one. It's just too hard to get my hand on. There's usually a way to get to this stuff. Okay. And there's the way. I'm going to hold it from the back, put some pressure against it, and I'm going to turn the whole stand off very easily from the outside. And like I said, there's usually a way, and that's the way. Because I've still got this one where it'll turn. Okay. And that looks great. That looks like the other ones line up. Looks just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and get my ruler, and I'm going to look and see what my distance is, because I don't remember it from my firewall to the back of my thrust washer. I know it's here. Well, that's kind of hard to find on this one. I know it's here. It'll take me a second to find it. Well, for some reason it's going to take me a second to find this, and so as soon as I locate it and get it worked out, I'll be right back. Okay, I found in the manual, finally, this is in a real odd spot, but they're saying 6 3/4 from the firewall to right here, which is, they call it the thrust washer for the prop or spinner, and that's right on the money with the standard standoffs for the DLE 55. So that's kind of what I was expecting. Tower, since they're selling, this is one of their premier engines. they're setting this airplane up basically for this engine, and that's great. But I did look at the template online, and then they do not give any of the locations for my throttle or anything. Now of course my fuel can go right under here. They do show that they run the fuel through the firewall. You can. I don't see any real reason. I usually just run it underneath. Which it'll be right there, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. So my fuel will work. So I need to figure out my throttle, and I need to figure out my choke. I put a little debonder on this earlier. I was going to see if it actually ever did anything. It doesn't appear to. So I'm going to look inside where I've mounted my servos before to work on my other engine and see if there's any way that might work. See, technically the choke would not be that hard to make it manual. I really have no problem with a manual choke. Some of the guys say they do, but I don't. Okay. Well, it looks like one of them would work just fine with my throttle servo. No problem. It's right there. No problem at all. For my spot for my throttle to come through my firewall, I kind of need to make sure my engine's where it goes, because it could change. So I'm going to go ahead and put another bolt in here so I can tighten it up and it'll hold it right where it goes. Hopefully. It's kind of hard to do, to get your fingers in the right spot and everything. A lot of times you can go ahead and stick it on the end of your Allen wrench or something, and it'll allow you to kind of place it where you want, and then you can put it in with your fingers later. But again, I'm sticking it through and then I'm turning my standoff to tighten it up, because it's much easier than getting in there and turning your bolt. Okay, now I'm trying to tighten these up pretty good, because I'm really wanting it to hold my engine right where it's going to go, because I want it to be real accurate. I'm just going to tighten these up just hand tight, but yet tight. And I've only got 3 of them in there right now. To really give me a good idea where my throttle servo is going to have to go through the firewall. And I've got a Sharpie over here somewhere. Here it is. I'm going to try to do a really good job marking that. is what I do is I go, see, because at the front of the stroke and at the end of the stroke it's going to be a little lower. So I'm going to go right to the middle of the stroke. And I'm going to eyeball it. I'm going to try to get it where it goes. That looks to be a pretty good spot right there for the throttle. Now I need to figure out how I'm going to do the choke. The choke servo would need to be really technically in the exact same spot as the throttle servo is going to be. This particular model gave a little servo box that you could put together. Let's see though. Yeah, it's not really working. It's really not bad. These type of linkages are not that hard to run. Let me see if I have some of the sheathing that goes on them. And I do. Some pieces here. Yeah, I've got plenty of it. Yeah, it really looks like I can do the choke fine too. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't look like a problem. Although this piece that I have in here holding my sheath that I had on there for my other setup is didn't come loose with my debonder, and it's just simply in the way at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and snip it. With a sharp pair of cutters. These are little cheap ones. I need to get a better pair. They get you by. But anyway, so it doesn't look like it's a problem. So I need to go ahead and mark my choke here. And of course this is very stiff. It may be a problem and it may not. Now my buddies tell me that they take this shaft out and remove the little spring, which is what I may have to do, as it's really stiff. It's going to be a job for that 70-ounce servo to work that. Now since this is going to go all the way up, I don't know, it's not going to give room for the clevis, and it's not going to give room for the ball link. So I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that. You see, it's got to go all the way to there to choke. It's going to be a little hard. I'm going to go back to considering making a manual. I'm going to go ahead and take my idle screw out of this engine. I always take the idle screw out, that way I can actually shut the engine off with the radio. Otherwise it'll go down an idle and you'd have to get an ignition cut off. I cut it off with the throttle, using a throttle cut on my radio. Okay. Alright, well I need a little piece of push rod and try to mock up something that might work. Is a manual choke, which it shouldn't be that hard. I'm going to start with, just for fun, a Z-bend. Which is exactly what it sounds like in a very simple way to hook into something. And it would be very loose on that. I don't know if I like that at all. It's just too loose, it would rattle a lot. Yeah, I don't really see that as working very well yet. There's lots of different ways to do it. I'll experiment with it quite a bit more and I'll come up with something, and when I do, I'll be back. Okay, I've actually decided that I am going to go ahead and use a servo that I have in there, and is what's going to happen is this to be fully actuated. It's going to be all the way back there, and that means that this connection is going to have to go through the firewall. So I'm just going to have to make a little piece of wood to hold the end of this sheathing, because as you can see, this won't go into this sheathing. So that's going to have to stand off a little ways, which is fine. I'll just have to make a little piece of wood that goes back there to hold it. And I'll have to have a hole large enough that this can go through the firewall, because it's going to have to actually go through at full actuation. So should be somewhere in there. Alright, now as I said, fuel line, I don't drill a hole through that. It can go right here and I can tie it to the side. I like doing it that way better than drilling a hole. So that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and start working on my linkages. So I need to go ahead and loosen these up to where I can take them out the same way I put them in, and that's by holding on to that back nut with something. In this case, just my finger. It won't take much to hold on to it. And just turning the stand off to get it loosened up. And I can actually leave these bolts through the firewall. I'm going to actually stick my other one through too. And what I'll do is I'll put my Loctite on them before I set my engine back up here in a minute. But I'm probably going to end up taking this off and putting it on a few times to get my linkages fitting right and working right. So it works great. I'm make sure to hold on to my engine, because when these come loose, this is just going to fall on the floor. I don't want to dent it up any more than they sent it to me. I really, of course, I'm kind of a perfectionist and I can't help it, but I hate buying a new engine and having it all dented up. But my friends tell me, you know, oh well, the one I got's great, and you just got a bad one. But I've actually looked at a lot of theirs, and theirs are just as dinged up as mine are. They're just not as picky, and that's fine. I mean, maybe I'm a little too picky. The dings and the dents and the bent fins will make absolutely no difference as long as it runs good. So that's just something I need to get over. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and stick this other one through just because it's handy. And then I am going to drill my holes for my outer sheath, for my control linkages. I'm using this plastic stuff. In the past I didn't think that was the greatest stuff, but I've actually learned to like it. It seems pretty nice. I'll have to see how well it holds up. It'll take a little vibration. It just seems like it's going to be really good. Okay, there it is. Now, I need to get my drill bit size. I believe it's one of these. Yes, it's that one right there. And get my drill. Now, it's kind of hard to do, but I want to get my angles on these. I really want to get my angles. The angle is going to make a huge difference. And the way I do this, and it's kind of strange, but I take a longer piece of this outer sheathing they give you, and it's just a guesstimation. I stick that through the little, this one I've got a little hole that I can use as a guide. Okay. Is what I do is actually bring this right up to it. And I go to my servo. Then I try to match it to my hole. This seems like an extra step, and it is an extra step. Anyway, I try to guess, and I try to push it up, and I try to look where that's going to come through. And I actually bring that outer sheathing, and I run it straight to my servo, and I run it to where it's going to come through. And what I do is I look and I see which way that hits it, at what angle. And then, now of course you have to start your hole straight to get your hole started. And then I turn my drill and I try to mimic that direction. And that will make a big difference. And again, you gotta kind of start your hole straight so it'll hold your bit. And then I don't know if you can see my angle, but it's quite an angle. It's really quite an angle. And that should really help that outer sheathing lay right and not bind. And with that all setting right there, I can just, as soon as I get it drilled, which I gotta get some of my little pieces of wood off the back there. As soon as I get it drilled, I can actually stick that through and see how close I was. Actually, just perfect. I've got my angle right. comes through at my angle. My hole is the right size. It looks like it's going to work really well. So I'm going to go ahead and push that one back out of the way. Now, push all your wood and your drill bit makes a mess pretty quick. I'll go ahead and I clean it up pretty quick. Even though I'm getting ready to do it again. Just takes a second to clean your mess up, and that way you're not working in the middle of a mess. Okay, now this one is going to go to the other servo, and it's going to be quite an angle. And this is the one that has to go. Let's see if I can do it this way. But the bottom line is the same idea. I actually angle that at it. I try to get a good feel for what I'm doing and what direction I'm coming from. And that should give me a really good idea on my angle that I'm going to be doing here. So I know what angle I'm going. It would really help me to know which way to drill my hole. Now this one's going to have to be much larger. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start it with this one. And again, you got to start it straight so it'll hold your drill bit. Okay. So I just go in a little bit to get it started straight. And now I've got my little outer sheathing piece laid here. And I'm going to bring it up to right where it'll go. And then I'm going to lay my other piece right over there pointing at my servo.
Okay, so you're very flexible on that as it goes.
And I'm going to see what my angle is. And my angle is up and at that direction. So right there it is. As I said earlier, I'm going to have to go a lot larger on this one, I believe. But I'm going to check it. Because right here is what's got to go in there. Not that far off. Because I won't want it much bigger. So I'm just going to ream it out a little bit, and I'm going to try that. And I think I got my angle about right. Little splinters of wood. When the bit comes through the wood, and of course, I usually drill it a little slower, and that helps. It kind of splinters the wood in the back, so you got to knock those little pieces off, get them out of your way. And I'll show you how to make this holder here in a minute, which is much easier than you might think. Much easier. Okay, now I've already got my outer sheathing sitting there, but I need to make a piece of wood that can slide up on, because like I said earlier, I'm going to want to. That's going to have to slide through the. Put it on something here. It's going to have to go on this, and it's going to have to be able to pull back through. Probably almost all the way. Maybe like that. So I can look through the firewall and I can see that I really just need something just even with the firewall. So all I got to do is take a little block of balsa or ply or something. Let me see what I've got here. I like to use a little block because I like to have a little distance. And I've got all kinds of extra wood here. Let me see what I've got. And you can almost even get by without doing this, but I like taking the extra steps whenever I can.
Again, my name is Wayne Shanklin, and I would like to continue my service to Boone County and ask you for your vote May 20th.
Political ad paid for by Wayne Shanklin, Republican candidate for Boone County Collector.
Well, I don't have the exact wood block that I'm looking for. So let me just go get a little bit of square stock balsa or something.
Everyone deserves to breathe clean air. Tri-Lakes Clean Air Alliance invites you to support businesses committed to your health. Like
That's exactly what I need. A little bit of rectangle stock balsa. And I'm not going to want that to be very big. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. My little hacksaw. This is a lot handier with a little piece of wood. Let me see if I can get where you can see what I'm doing. And this is just balsa. A little bit of rectangle stock balsa. Now I actually buy some of the kits off eBay where they say they're incomplete, or I just watch some of the kits that aren't very desirable or whatever. It's a great way to get a bunch of balsa wood and ply to work with. And, oh, this kit was a Messerschmitt US. What was it? USA balsa kit or something. Anyway, for like 20 bucks, I got tons of wood to work with. But anyway, this is going to hold the back side of that. And that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to set it back up there, right in back of my hole that I just drilled. And actually run it up to the bottom of my other one. And I put it right in place, and then I'm going to take a little CA and put it in place. And I can actually put the CA through my hole that I just drilled. And I'm actually pushing this right up against the bottom of my other linkage here. Now I don't want to glue that linkage in yet. I want to make sure not get glue on that.